The Bible says, "Fill your hungry soul with what's good." When we eat, we share, we grow. Every meal is a chance to be fed and to feed someone else. Life is like cooking. When it works, it doesn't matter if the process is fancy or simple. Good food and a life well lived comes down to how much heart you put in. This time around, we're going to be making my version of meatballs. And I used lentils because they are packed full of protein. They're amazing and versatile, and you can find them fresh or you can find them canned. This is a really great way to substitute any kind of meatball. If you're doing meatball subs, or if you're doing Swedish meatballs, or if you're doing spaghetti and meatballs, you can use these. And this recipe, if you double it, you can actually take half of it and eat it for your evening meal, and then you can take the other half and freeze it and pull them out whenever you want. It's so versatile, it's really easy, and you're gonna love it. So the first thing that we wanna do is add our walnuts. We're gonna give them a little bit of a pulse to make sure that they're the right consistency. You want them the consistency of sand because you want them to mix in. We're making meatballs, so you don't want to bite into a big piece of walnut. That looks just about right. The ones that I'm making here today are vegetarian, so they do have cheese in them, but you can absolutely do these completely vegan and even gluten-free. So the first thing that we want to do after the walnuts is we want to add the lentils. And I just use canned lentils, and I drain them and wash them off. And they work perfectly fine. If you are so inclined, you can always cook your own lentils. If you're making a lentil soup or something like that and you have some extra, it would be perfect to put in here. The next thing that I'm gonna add is about 1/4 cup of cooked onion. And the good thing about this is that if you watched my mushroom and onion stroganoff video, you can save a little bit of your cooked onions and even throw in a little bit of mushrooms in this recipe, and it would be perfectly fine. So you can cook the onion now, or anytime you're cooking onion, just reserve it, stick it in a little baggie in the fridge, and you're off to the races. So go ahead and add that. Raw onion, it just has a kind of a bite to it, and we really want this to be sweet and meaty. Then I'm gonna add our Parmesan cheese. Now, in order to make this vegan, what you're gonna do is, instead of using the Parmesan cheese, what you're gonna do is find nutritional yeast and add the same amount. So this is about 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Add the nutritional yeast instead. It'll give you that same cheesy flavor, and it's a really, really good ingredient. Next, we're gonna add the ricotta. And for this, to make it vegan, what you wanna do is you wanna use the same amount of like a silky tofu, but add about a teaspoon of lemon juice just to give it that bite that the ricotta has. Now we're gonna add our egg. And the egg adds moisture to this. So in order to make it vegan, what you're gonna wanna do is add about 1/4 cup of soy milk or almond milk, and that will just give it the exact moisture so it kind of binds together. We're gonna add a couple of leaves of flat leaf parsley. If you watched my stroganoff recipe at all, you're gonna have leftover parsley, and so throw that in here. Again, these freeze really, really well. You can make them in the same week. Now we're gonna add our spices, and we have salt and pepper, dried thyme, and a little bit of garlic. And so all of that goes in. Next, we're gonna add breadcrumbs, and there are so many beautiful, wonderful gluten-free breadcrumbs that you can add to this, and that way they're vegan and gluten-free for anybody. We're gonna pulse this until it's completely mixed together. So the next thing that you want to do is form them into meatballs, and you can take them out by the spoonful and, you know, form them with your hands, but this is one of the best things ever. It's a tablespoon and it's a ice cream scooper, but I use it to make cookies and meatballs and all kinds of stuff. So it's more than just for ice cream. It's an amazing tool. I highly recommend that you go get one. So what you want to do is just get in there, grab a handful, and then just start putting them on your tray. I use this because it's a non-stick pad, but you can always use parchment paper if you don't want them to stick. So lentils are talked about in the Bible, and I find it really interesting that bread is referred to as the staff of life, and lentils are referred to as a pulse. The edible part is called a pulse, and they're both life-giving. In Genesis, there's a story of Jacob and Esau, and Esau actually sells his entire birthright to Jacob for a bowl of lentil stew. So it must have been like an incredible stew, right? But if you really read that story, what it's about is it's about impulsiveness. And it got me to thinking, what would be my lentil stew? When I have this huge goal in mind, what would it take for me to get sidetracked from that dream that I have? And you can lose your vision in the day-to-day stuff. You can lose the idea by being tempted, just like Esau was. He came out of the wilderness really, really hungry, and he could have grabbed something else, but he sold his entire birthright for this stew that he smelled. And so I think the lesson is here is, don't give up your birthright. Don't give up your dream just for something that's going to sidetrack you, that is appealing in the moment. Find that focus that you have. Find that focus of the big goal and keep your eye on the prize. So we want to continue to go ahead and fill out the entire tray of meatballs. So remember, in your times of desperation, when you're worn out, to keep your eye on your goal and not give in to that idea of that'll do. Don't settle for less than your birthright. God will show you the direction that you need to go in. You want to drizzle them with a little bit of olive oil. Then they're going to go into the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Thanks for watching. You can find the full recipe in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.